Some years ago, in a blog by my colleague Victoria Weinstein, I found the best description of what our congregation should be that I've ever encountered. She wrote, "Today, the church is an outsider institution, as it should always have been. It exists to question cultural norms, to help us want to right things and to hunger and thirst for justice, to make us uncomfortable with the gap between our professed ideals and our actions. It exists to claim us, to shake us, to demand of us, and to make us new people, brothers and sisters of one another, lovers of the world, workers on behalf of the kingdom of equals, and the kind of people that others are so drawn to that they can't help but ask, wow, how did you get trained to be such an amazing human being?" I got so excited by this. Got so excited by that last sentence. How do we train to be such amazing human beings? Yes, that's what we should be about as religious communities. We need to be places where we can train to be awesome human beings. And what better place, after all? What better purpose is there for this one precious life than to learn to be a wonderful human being, meaning to be wise and compassionate, to be healing and loving and happy? That's our birthright, after all. The Buddha, the enlightened one, the awakened one, was a human being. His neurological being wasn't that different from ours. And that means that we have Buddha's brain, essentially. That the potential that he reached is something that we can reach. And as Unitarians, we believe that Jesus was fully human. And that means that we can have the loving heart of Jesus. The Buddha, Jesus, they were human, we are human. We have these potentials within us. One time, I was challenged to articulate the mission of a congregation in business terms, which I resisted at first, but then I decided to give it a try. So the first question was, what business is the congregation in? And the second question was, what product did it offer? My answer came fairly quickly. The business of the church is to create whole human beings, and our product is heal lives that help heal the world. The business of a congregation is to create whole human beings, and our product is heal lives that help heal the world. And I wish more people knew that that's what Unitarian Universalist congregations are about, because we've been a bit coy about spreading our good news. And overall, the brand of organized religion has gotten a really bad name for some very good reasons. Organized religion has become more abusive, more corrupt as time has gone on, and the scandal of so many organized religions now plaster the headlines. The Catholic Church priest abuse scandals which continue to be uncovered. The televangelist scandals of greed and hypocrisy. The intolerance and harshness of the religious right, which has now led to idol worship of Donald Trump over Jesus by many evangelical Christians. And many young people and people in general feel that the organized religion is hypocritical, judgmental, and complacent. And because we're sort of an organized religion, we're put in the same category in people's minds. And so more and more people claim to be spiritual but not religious. A recent poll has found that the first time since people have been polled, more people claim not to be part of an organized religion in the United States than are part. So people naturally are being spiritual by themselves because there's that deep yearning to fulfill their human potential. There is a deep need to grow and to become more authentic, wiser, more compassionate. But being spiritual by yourself can only take you so far. Maybe your yoga class can meet that need, but probably not. That weekend meditation workshop will only take you so far. Because there's a profound truth. It's a truth that's actually in our biology. We can't be fully human until we profoundly connected to other human beings. When we're not, we pay a price. As this pandemic has so greatly demonstrated. Because after all, we're mammals, even more that we're actually higher primates, which means that we need to be part of bands to be real, to be truly who we are. We can't be truly who we are as isolated individuals. We need to be in bands, we need to be in clans, we need to touch and hear and smell each other. And it's not only that we need other people to be awesome human beings, we need other people to be human at all because our brains and our bodies don't work well if we're isolated and not truly connected. And in North American culture, that's really not what a lot of people experience. The Harvard sociologist Robert Putnam, who's the author of a famous study called Bowling Alone, did a study back in the early 2000s of 40 geographical areas where he counted people's connections. And he found that the loneliest area in the United States is Los Angeles. I was shocked to find that the second loneliest is San Diego. There were two studies that he compared. One was done back in 1985, the other in 2004. Each of the studies went on to ask the people a number of questions about who those people could confide in when they had trouble in their life. And here are some of the highlights that shocked the sociologists so much that they had to recheck the data. It was so shocking that it was hard to believe. In 1985, the response given most often was having 3 people to whom one could confide. In 2004, the modal response was 0. The percentage of people who said they had no one with whom to confide jumped from 10% in 1985 to 24.6% in 2004. That means in just 20 years, the percentage of people who said they had no one to talk to when they needed to talk went from 1 person in 10 to 1 in every 4. This is simply shocking. This was before everybody had a smartphone. It's got to be much worse now. And of course, we were all in forced isolation during the pandemic, and we are now counting the cost. If a person has only one confidant, the chances are that that one confidant is his or her spouse or partner. What this means is that the ties beyond the nuclear family are being cut. So loneliness is a devastating epidemic to us as individuals and to our societies. People need to belong. As they used to say on the TV show Cheers, most of you remember that, we need a place where everybody knows your name, a neighborhood, an extended family, a church, synagogue, temple, fellowship. And if we don't have that organic community where different kinds of people with different kinds of experiences, personalities, and views come together, then we're tempted to join some larger abstract tribe like the political tribes and extremist groups that we're seeing now that define themselves in opposition to others. Dr. Dean Ornish, a heart specialist, has established that people who are active in religious communities are way healthier than those who aren't. And he controlled for things like obesity, smoking, and the lack of exercise. Still, people who smoked or were obese or lacked exercise tended to be healthier if they were involved in religious communities. So it's good for our spiritual health. It's good for our social and psychological health, and even our physical health. What I hear most often from North Americans about what they admire about Mexican culture, what's so healing and refreshing, is the warm and close network of relationships that people have with their families and friends and their neighborhoods. My ministry right now, since I've left parish ministry, is teaching people spiritual practices. That's the core of my ministry as a spiritual director and meditation coach. And the spiritual discipline is truly a powerful tool for transformation. Meditation will actually remodel your brain in beneficial ways. But even without that, you don't need to meditate for hours a day to enter a monastery, to start a spiritual life. You already have a spiritual life, even if you don't know it. The 16th century monk, Brother Lawrence, said, if you knew what the soul said to God sometimes, you would be surprised. So take a little time to find out what deep questions and thoughts the soul is having. And you might be surprised. And it's better when you do that in the context of a spiritual community. Because as the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said, a lone practitioner is an ex-practitioner. Even to keep our private and personal spiritual disciplines going, we need the support of community. The religious community is the place where we and our children can learn or be reminded about what virtue and integrity are in a culture that sends us all the wrong messages about that. We can be encouraged to act on our deepest values and reminded about what they are. The religious community is the place where we're encouraged to practice generosity, which is truly good for the soul. As all the great religious traditions agree, and the psychological studies are proving over and over again, that happiness has to do with giving of our material possessions, of ourselves, of our service, of our time, of our care, and of our love. The Buddhist teacher Søren Salzberg says that practicing generosity is the beginning of spiritual awakening because it helps us to truly recognize the profound oneness with others and with our planet. Things that make us happier when we give them away. And they loosen the bonds of ego and grasping and allow us to be more fully human, more fully who we are, more authentically human. The spiritual community is the place where we learn to practice gratitude. One of the oldest and most effective spiritual practices of all are counting our blessings. Our congregations are where we find those all important role models who provide examples to us of what it means to be a wonderful person. You know who they are. The question for our discussion later is to talk about and identify and talk about who some of those role models are. And these are people that we find in our religious community. We're in the business of creating whole human beings. Whole human beings have an open mind and an open heart. They're reflexive and aware. They're able to grow and to admit their mistakes. They're honest with themselves first and others too. They know that they're not perfect, that they can never be perfect. And because they know that, they don't expect others to be perfect. And they're quick to forgive. They have a sense of humor and can laugh first of all at themselves. Whole human beings are able to have compassion for themselves and for others. They love with depth and power. They can be vulnerable. They're kind to the others they meet, and they take good care of themselves. Whole human beings understand that they're part of a story that is longer and larger than their own lives. They walk gently on the earth and spend time in and learn from nature. They feel a responsibility for the larger community. They stand with those who are oppressed, mistreated, and abused. Being good consumers is not what they live for. Because they love and are loved, because of their integrity, they inspire others. They are the righteous ones who hold up the world, the ones that show us all how to live. And our adventures in congregations is to be that community for those who resolve to live as whole human beings, and who, with open hearts and open arms, welcome those hungry souls and broken hearts that seek us in this great adventure of the Spirit. Amen, and may it be so. Now, please join us in singing Wake Now My Senses.